With the magic of Christmas ebbing back to a manageable hum in the old quarter of Port Grace, I strolled over to the pub near the rail yard to think about model trains, as one does during important religious holidays. What occupied my thoughts were the locomotives in my little fleet that have some personal significance. Not the fancy head turners, but rather the humble ones that for some reason I find special in some way. So I thought it might be pleasant to share a few of them with you. Some HO, double O, and S scale engines. Heck, there's even an O gauge in the mix. Let's start with these 50-year-old Revell HO scale F units in Canadian Pacific livery. The special connection is that my dad brought these little diesels home one day in the mid-1970s with the intention of getting them running again. Well, he never got the chance, but a few decades later I managed to do it in his memory. They're mostly plastic, they're pretty beat up, and they're missing parts here and there, but when on the track pulling a train, they never cease to make me smile. I like to think my dad would smile too, knowing how really quite inept I was mechanically. Not that I'm terribly gifted now, of course. But seeing them in action after I'd had at them, you'd probably consider it to be something of a Christmas miracle. Another HOCP loco with an entirely different personal connection is this E8. I bought it from a gentleman selling a collection of model trains on behalf of a lady who had recently lost her husband. Turns out that husband was a chap named Dave, and I'd worked with him at a radio station back in the 80s. A very gentle soul with a mellifluous voice and a nice, easygoing manner, and unbeknownst to me, a model train guy. We worked in different areas of the station, so didn't know each other that well. But had we known of this shared passion, we might have had some interesting chats and maybe got together for a running session or two. This really was a surprising connection for me. Broadcasting and model trains never occupied the same space in my memories, totally different chapters of my life. But they kinda do now, thanks to a guy named Dave. Go figure. This RDC Bud car also came from Dave's collection, but it was in rougher shape. It was actually an unfinished metal kit, and a lot of the pieces were corroded. Kind of right up my street, because I like him to be a bit weathered and grimy. Beyond the connection with Dave, I have some experience riding Bud cars, having commuted on them for a short time between Vancouver and Squamish, after a catastrophic bridge washout on the Highway 99 corridor in the early 1980s. I tend to think of that when I run this little guy. That and hockey, Canada versus Russia, what with that cool CP goalie mask livery and everything. Now to the old country, where rail traditions run deep. My family roots are in the UK, and my dad's side from the west of England. This O-gauge Hornby wind-up set was another dad find. I'm thinking it may have conjured up memories of when he rode the rails in coaches pulled by something very much like this. It's not a runner right now, but I hope to rectify that in the not-too-distant future. What is a runner, though, is this old double O scale Great Western Railway steam engine. I bought it with some other British profile locos a few years back when we moved up to our new house. When tested, it looked like it had perhaps spent a bit too much time at the pub. It staggered and derailed, and had really lost all semblance of dignity. But with a little guidance from YouTube, I did some hip surgery, and now it runs quite soberly, if you get my meaning. I like this little German steamer, too. Remember that repair session well. I've never seen so many reduction gears in such a small loco in my life. Also a bit of a wintry adventure picking it up from the cellar. A story for another day, perhaps. I find I'm always running these ones just to prove to myself they're still fixed. And each time they tootle down the track, I feel quite satisfied. Only a couple more to go, starting with this slightly modified royal blue that American Flyer purists would probably consider to be a royal blue nightmare. I bought this off eBay back in the 2000s as a parts donor for another engine I was fixing up. Its die-cast metal nose was completely broken off, probably from being dropped onto a concrete floor. But when it came in the mail, everything else about it looked to be in pretty good shape, even the royal blue and American Flyer word marks. And it ran rather well too after a cleaning and a bit of oil here and there. So armed with some mesh, Bondo, and glazing putty, I rebuilt the nose. Perfect? Good heavens no. Has a bit too much Bob Hope to it, if you know what I mean. Cool? Well, I like to think so, though the National Model Railway Association would likely disagree. This last one is another streamlined steamer, an American Flyer Silver Bullet. This is the one that actually started it all for me. A present from, you guessed it, my dad, dating back to Christmas 1964, though it was actually made around 1950. I was a bit young to be trusted with electrics, so Dad set everything up, but I was right in there when it came to running the train, and together we had a lot of fun. Shortly thereafter, it was put away and rattled around in a box with its track and things for decades. When I rediscovered it years later, its silver finish was a real mess, and it wouldn't run. But the shell was intact and all the mechanical parts were there, so I did my best to refinish it, along with the passenger cars. Got replacement decals for everything, painted it up, and did what needed to be done to get it running again. And bingo, I was once again hooked on the hobby. Valuable? Not really. Pristine? Oh no. But what a lovely Art Deco locomotive, with a special family connection, and a special Christmas connection too. So, that's it. Just some random model trains, making some special connections in one guy's journey through life. I hope you enjoyed seeing them in action. Kinda hope my dad did.